Hello, and welcome to the Fear Channel, a channel with regular broadcasts telling the most chilling of urban legends, ghost stories, and forays into the darkest corners of the human mind. Those faint of heart or prone to night terrors should proceed at their own risk. Tonight's story is Cranna.
The story of Cranna begins with her husband's mysterious death. Captain Joseph Hovey was a naval officer. According to his wife, Hannah, he went out for a walk one evening after seeming a little foggy-headed and didn't return. The next day, he was found dead with a broken neck at the bottom of a ledge. Rumors went flying. Apparently, the captain was in fairly good rapport with the rest of the town. The townsfolk suspected foul play, and thought that Hannah must have bewitched him into a daze for something like this to happen. Hannah was soon labeled a witch. Hannah also wasn't considered the nicest woman in town prior to the accident. Afterwards, the townspeople loathed her. She used her status as a rumored witch to acquire free goods and services from the townsfolk. The tales tell of her asking for things like pie and firewood, and if she didn't get what she wanted, she would curse those who denied her. Those cursed would be unable to perform the task at hand, so when she asked a fisherman for a fish and he refused, she cursed the fisherman so that he could no longer successfully catch fish. A similar event happened to the town baker. Supposedly, she bestowed good fortune on those she liked, as well as those who did her favors. Hannah had a rooster named Old Boreas that some people suspected as being her familiar. According to one version of the legend, when the rooster finally died, Hannah knew her time was up. She insisted that her coffin be carried to the graveyard by hand. Since she died during the colder part of the year, there was plenty of snow on the ground, which made carrying the coffin by hand very difficult and dangerous. The townsfolk tried to carry her coffin to the grave on a sled, but the coffin kept finding a way to slide and fall out. Still ignoring her dying wish, the townspeople strapped her coffin to the sled again, this time with huge iron chains. Several men climbed on top to ensure the coffin didn't budge. The procession once again set off, but the coffin shook so violently that the men were thrown to the ground, and the chains started to burst. Admitting defeat, and realizing Hannah was just as demanding dead as alive, the men lifted the coffin onto their shoulders and trudged through the snow to the cemetery. Because of all of the delays, Hannah's second dying wish was followed, and she was buried just after sunset. As the mourners returned from the cemetery, they noticed a fiery glow lighting up Cragley Hill. It was Hannah's house, which had mysteriously burst into flames. The fire burned for several days. When it finally died down, the cellar hole had the reputation of being haunted. If you hadn't noticed yet, there is something odd about Cranna's tombstone. It has two death dates, one that reads 1859, and the other that simply reads 60. There are many stories surrounding this oddity. In one rendition of the tale, she dies in her home, most likely during the late fall in 1859, but since she tended to keep to herself, no one found her until the winter in 1960. Another more sinister version suggests that the townspeople finally worked up the nerve to kill her, but due to her occult powers, she didn't stay dead for long. The town had to lynch her a second time in order for her to stay dead, and that is the reason for the second date on the tombstone. In this version of the tale, Hannah says that no living man will carry her to her grave. While her coffin was being carried to the burial ground, the men accidentally dropped her coffin, and it slid directly into her burial plot, thus fulfilling her dying prophecy. Since her death, people have reported strange occurrences around her tombstone. Some have claimed that it glows at night on the anniversary of her death. Others have claimed to see her ghost wandering in the street by the graveyard, scaring those who drive by. This is one site that I have personally been to several years ago. A friend of mine had an Eagle Scout project that entailed documenting the writing on all of the tombstones in the graveyards in Trumbull. While Hannah Cranna lived in Monroe, the Gregory's Four Corners burial ground is technically in Trumbull. While documenting her tombstone, there were two strange occurrences that I noticed. The first was that several offerings were left at the base of her tombstone. This included money and other valuable coins. There was also a leather bag with voodoo tarot cards inside. The second odd occurrence was a strange patch of dust on the hillside. Even though the wind was barely blowing, there was a small section of dirt that kept shooting up into the air several feet from her grave for no discernible reason.